Good evening. This is the OPLC meeting for January 19th, 2021. Glad to have all of you here with us tonight. I will begin with who we are. Basically, I am Ladd Smith, and I will be the chair for this calendar year. With us, we have Commissioners Jenny Rose, and James Wilburn is with us also.
Here.
Yes, okay. And we have a fourth commissioner who's not here at the moment. He may join us in a little bit. That would be Luke Jasmine. Also, we have our ombudsman, Bart Logue. We have Ms. Lamana, who's our deputy ombudsperson, and Christina Cody, our administrative specialist, and Mr. Bingham, who is our legal counsel for the OPLC. So with those introductions, we'll take a look here at the agenda. Commissioner Rose, it's been a while since I have been a chair, so I would gladly accept any anything that I might forget, or feel free to assist if you find a need to, okay? Okay, so looking at our agenda, please review the agenda, and if you see any changes that need to take place, please let that be known now. Otherwise, I will be happy to take a motion to accept this evening's agenda.
So move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Rose, for the second. All those in favor of this evening's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, we have set the agenda for this evening. Next, we'll take a look at our minutes. Thank you, Ms. Cody, for sending those minutes from, looks like from October of 2020 and November also. I believe October was a special meeting having to do with taking care of some requirements for commissioners and for our ombudsman, Mr. Lowe. So those minutes are brief.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I believe it's November and December.
Is it? I have in my packet something from October.
Okay, that could be an error that I need to fix.
Okay. Because it should.
I do not have December's minutes. I only have October and.
It's a short one. It's the third page on the agenda packet.
Let me keep looking.
Oh, and Commissioner Luke, welcome to this evening's commission meeting. Glad to see you and have you here.
I don't have it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Unless.
Jenny, I'll send that to you again. So I need to fix the date up at the top of the October one. It should read December 1st.
Yeah,
it's the
okay,
December meeting.
that's
so that's
more recent than October.
Yep, I will fix that.
Okay, I got it.
Bingman, do you think I can still proceed with accepting the minutes if they're changed right now?
Yeah, I would just change the date on the record, and then it can be amended after the meeting. So, yeah, I believe it should say December 1st, 2020.
Okay. So hopefully you've all had time to look at those minutes from November 2020 and December 2020. I would happily take any motions to approve the minutes for November and December.
I so approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second the minutes with the necessary corrections. I'm still looking at October 20th.
Okay.
But
Okay,
we're
but
talking
you-
about December, right?
Correct. We're in the process of making a correction. So the minutes would be approving would be for November and
November?
December. Yes.
Well, I'm looking at October. You said November. I'm trying to check that out.
Okay.
November 18th.
Yes, sir.
So the motion was to approve both November and December?
Correct.
I second.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes with the amended date of December and also November 2020. All those in favor of accepting these minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, they have been approved, and thank you. Okay, let me take a look here at my agenda. One moment, please. Okay, Ms. Cody, do we have anybody signed up for to speak this evening? Any citizen signups?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Loeb, looks like we're ready for the monthly report and the followed by the critical incident at January 5th at Ashland Fleet.
This is the one thing about working from home. I usually have everything printed, and now I'm trying to flip through screens. So I apologize for that delay.
Mr. Loeb, I'm in the exact same situation, so that would make two of us kind of fielding between different windows.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a whole bunch of numbers for this report. But I want to caveat it in advance that although it'll sound like I'm saying final numbers, there is a very good chance that they may adjust between now and when we publish the annual report. Because as we're double checking and triple checking things, we're finding that IA has some different numbers than we have, and we want to just have them be as perfect as possible. But for right now, we're going to go with what we wrote on the December report. So just quickly do some year-end numbers, working our way down. And we had 3 outreach events. So the total of that was 56 for the year, which is not bad if you consider the COVID environment that we're working in. But more so than that, if you compare that number to last year, 2019, we did 61 events, attended 61 community events in 2019. So we're not far off on that. And an addition to that, if you add the OPOC's outreach, you had 30 events for the year. So we're at 86 events for the year between the two of us. So community outreach, I think we did pretty good with the restrictions that we had in place on us. In 2018, for community events, if you recall, the OPO went to 102 events, and the OPOC had requested that we reduce the number of community outreach events that we were doing at that time. And then the OPOC was going to pick up that slack. So in 2018 was 102, and to get it to 86 between both of us is pretty good for a COVID year. Contacts for the month we had 74, which brings the total to 1,232 for 2020. If you compare that to 2019, we had 1,294 contacts. So that's only 62 off of where we were in 2019. If you think about that, the majority of the year, City Hall was closed, so we were not able to use our office access for any of those contacts for the majority of the year. The community has figured out how to reach out to us, even outside of the office, and I think we're right on track with where we are. But I did note, as I was looking through some of the previous years, is that we've been averaging more than 100 contacts a month for the last 3 years with community members. We had one commendation come in this month, making it 7 for the year, and we'll compare that to 8 last year. I think it's always important for us to let the public know that our office really wants to hear the good things you have to say about our police department, as well as the concerns that you have. So bring in your commendations as well as your concerns. We count them all and we make sure that they're published and forwarded to the appropriate people. For complaints for the month, in November we had 2, December we had 4, for a total of 52 for the year. And then I'll just lump referrals in. 2 referrals in November, 7 in December, for 109 for the year. So those numbers are down in comparison to the previous year. In 2019, we had 77 complaints. And somewhere on here, I wrote what the total number for IA and the OPO. Oh, we had 89 total for the year, which is, I think, 15 or 16 down from where we were in 2019. But all in all, I think 109 referrals with 52 complaints, it's 161 total. If you go back to 2017, we had 84 total, and in 2018, we had 114. So we're above both of those numbers, despite the COVID year. So folks are using our office to bring their concerns about the police department, but they are lower than they were last year. So I think that's a good thing. Case reviews in December, I didn't return any investigations for further investigation, and I only did 21 returns for further investigation for the year. 2019, I had sent back 28. Part of this isn't because that they're getting to me perfectly, but I have a really good communication system set up with the IA lieutenant, and I can pick up the phone and call him as I'm reviewing a case, and when I have a question, I ask him that, and he gets an answer. And if something's missing from the case file, he gets it put in immediately. So I'm able to get those corrections and those additions in real time, which is definitely a time saver from sending it back and forth. I think end of the day, it's not about returning investigations, but it's about having a good investigation at the end. And so 0 going back for further investigation this month and reducing the number for the year is definitely a good sign. The communication process is working well. For certified investigations, I certified 12 cases in November, and I certified 4 in December, for a total of 76 cases certified for the year. And I didn't decline any investigations this year. So if you look back in history a little bit, I declined to certify 1 case in 2019. I declined to certify 2 cases in 2018. But in 2017, I declined to certify 18 cases. So they're definitely doing some pretty good work, and I'm satisfied with the investigative processes that are coming through. OPO interviews ended up with 129 for the year, which is down a little bit from 2019, where we had 158 OPO interviews. But in 2018, we only had 50. And as you're going to see in Christina's PAR, as you go through that later, I am giving her an awful lot of credit as she has built and helped us really bring in the community members for detailed interviews. IA interviews, which was interesting as I went over these numbers today. We had 2 for both November and December, but only 51 interviews that I was able to participate in with internal affairs. If you compare that to 2019, I was invited to 10 less interviews than I was last year. But if you compare to 2018, I was invited to 90 less interviews this year. So there's something going on with the interview process. I think this year, a lot of it, we can maybe attribute that to I'm not involved in as many citizen interviews as I was before. And I think a lot of that's because they're just picking up the phone and calling them, and they roll right into the interview when they're calling about the initial concern. So I miss there. But the numbers of participating in interviews are definitely down. And it was significant last year, and then they're down again for this year. So it's something to look at. We'll watch it. I think another part of it might be how the police department is choosing to classify some cases. This year, we had about 25% of the cases go up for a chain of command review. But that's actually more than last year. Last year, we had only, I got a lot of feedback all of a sudden.
All right, just a minute. I'm trying to.
I fixed it. I muted the other computer.
Okay. So we had 24% of cases went up the chain of command in 2019. So we do use administratively suspended and closed for cases that don't have enough to it to go up the chain of command. But we really try to follow as best as we can the definition set forth in the internal affairs or the complaint process in the SPD policy. And if Lieutenant Coles was briefing and he's on here, I think he'd agree that most of our phone calls have us breaking out the policy and going straight down the definition as we come to a conclusion on what we're going to classify a case as. And I've agreed every time. I think we get to a place where we can agree every time on those definitions. So I don't think there's anything wrong there. I'm just trying to figure out why the interviews have really plummeted over the last couple of years. So it's something I'll watch, and I will brief the commission if we come to a conclusion on any of that. Meetings with SPD, I call meetings or significant contacts. Those are phone calls over 10 minutes, usually with our with the IA lieutenant. We had 337 meetings for the year. So more than 30 a month, or almost 30 a month. That's for this year. So 337 for the year. If you compare that to 2019, we had 379. So that's we're only off significant contacts with each other 30, 33, 34. And then you throw the COVID year on top of that. Most of those are substantial phone contacts that we're having with each other. So that should tell you that communication is pretty wide open right now with the police department.
Okay.
So outside of that, I wanted to tell you that all 3 of us in the OPO were able to take some time off at the end of December over the holiday period, and we thank you for that. We did not have a time period where the office wasn't covered by someone. But I think really my biggest highlight of December has to be Christina making the final cut in the budget to become a full-time employee. And she's a full-time employee right now, which is something I think we've been working on for 3+ years. We have to be very grateful to that. And it might be worth a shout out to your city council members in your district to give them a thank you for their consideration individually, because without their support, that wouldn't have happened. Christina was not on the initial offering list to city council in regards to the budget. So it was city council's efforts that that put that through, and then the mayor agreed with the city council and briefed it in their quarterly meeting at the end of the year. And so that's happened. You know, I'm very grateful for that. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that, and I know I've said it before, I think in the last month, is that I'm on 3 different committees with NACOL this year. One is the Strategic Planning Committee. The other is the Member Development and Support Committee. And then I'm on the Use of Force Working Group. As I was attending the Strategic Planning Committee this last month, just an interesting thing that I thought that everyone would be interested in is that we had a long discussion about strategic messaging and then our oversight goals at the national level, because NACOL has already been in contact many times, maybe not many, but several times with the Biden transition team. So they are reaching out to NACOL in regards to police reform and oversight efforts. And we are engaged in that dialogue and creating the dialogue for NACOL. So it's an interesting time to be a part of those committees, as I think we're going to see some adjustments and some focus on certain things at the national level. And it's fun to be a part of that. Finally, I'll tell you that for training, a lot of our time in December, not so much this last couple of weeks for me, but I need to finish it up. We had the opportunity to be part of the Use of Force Summit, which is something that we had previously sent Commissioner Kelly to a couple of years ago in Connecticut in December. But this year, because of the travel restrictions, we were able to just join the online conference for just the conference submission fee, and the city allowed us to spend that money on that. And I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and every class is significant, and it's on a portion of force that that's different. We have legal aspects, we have patrol aspects, we have body camera aspects, we have audio. There's just so many parts of it that are really, really good. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I think it's definitely something to consider, at least sending one person, maybe a commissioner who wants to brave Connecticut in December next year. I think it's good enough that we try to establish some money that someone goes to that, because I think you'll come away with quite a bit of it. Then I think we'll just very briefly talk about the officer-involved shooting on January 5th. And I need to highlight again to the commission, and it's something that to bring up with our city council members, is that we still, and really it's not still, for the foreseeable future, we have an issue in regards to going out to the scene of an officer-involved shooting. And that's not because anything that SPD changed, it's something that changed at the Washington state level. So because scenes are investigated completely by an outside agency, Internal Affairs is not invited out to the scene either. So there is we don't have agreements with the outside agencies in regards to having me come out and walk the scene as we did before, when Internal Affairs could go out to the scene. So it's something that we need to work through. It's a gap that's probably was unexpected, but it exists. In our ordinance, we have a clause that says that I'll be called out to the scene of these officer-involved shootings, but that hasn't happened for the last couple. So The only information that we have in regards to, I did get a phone call. I was briefed of when it happened. Mostly it was just that it happened because nobody is in the information loop because of the state law. So the details that I received, I sent the commission an email on them, were very vague. But it turned out that on the January 5th officer involved shooting, it involved a longer term investigation by the police department in regards to a person that was a suspect in a previous homicide investigation. And on January 5th, they came into contact with this person and they attempted to make a traffic stop. And the person fled the scene. The press release says that the police department immediately, or the officers who to pull them over, they performed what's called a pit. And that's using the car to physically stop another car. It's a maneuver that the police department uses to stop someone fleeing before a pursuit becomes necessary. I think the police handle on pursuits and wanting to minimize them as much as possible. So the pit maneuver is regularly used by the police department. So they were able to stop the car. And here's where the details go a little sketchy. The individual, and I apologize, I don't have his name off the top of my head, but he exited the car and fired at least one round at police officers who returned fire. And he was pronounced deceased at the scene. I don't have a lot of other details other than what was put out in the press release. I think we can put the press release, maybe we should have put it in your agenda packet as well. I know we sent it out to the commission via email, and it went out to all the media sources. But that's what I have in regards to my brief today, subject to your questions.
Mr. Logue, thank you for that, filling us in on what's been happening recently. And my jaw about dropped when I heard NACOL and Biden used in the same sentence. So I'm really kind of excited about that, you know, what's happening in the near future. And I also appreciated hearing about the communications with Lieutenant Coles. Yeah, and the fact that there's a good communication going on there. I appreciate hearing that. Commissioners, anyone have any questions? Any clarification? Yes, Commissioner Rose.
So I think I'm just a little bit confused, Bart. Internal affairs, are they ever called out to a scene when there's an officer involved shooting?
Not anymore.
Okay. Oh, so that changed.
Correct.
When did that change?
I want to say last year for the full year.
Okay.
It's been that way. But it was part of I-940, and I can't remember the year that was. It feels like a couple of years ago we were talking about that.
Okay.
I think we voted on that in November of 2018. So beginning of 2019 is when the changes would have happened.
So do you have any idea what we would need to do or change for you to be able to, I mean, some sort of mandate or law for you to be able to go out and investigate a scene? Would it have to come from our legislators, or what do you think?
What's interesting, right? Because part of the 940 was to include an impartial civilian as part of the investigation. But we have not been placed on that list at all. So that's something that could happen relatively easily at Chief Meidel's level, but I'm not sure. Outside of becoming part of that group of civilians that would monitor the investigation as it goes on, I'm not sure. It might have to be something that the city enters into agreements. We would have to become part of the SIR team agreement, and where other agencies would agree to call us out or brief us on anything.
Isn't it usually the sheriff's office that does the investigations for the city officer involved?
It's a mix, and I don't know if it's more one than the other, but the sheriff's office and the Washington State Patrol are the two agencies that come in. I'm not sure if they've used some of the smaller agencies or not. I don't believe so since I've been here, like Airway Heights or Liberty Lake or Spokane.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So I think it's the sheriff's
Okay.
office and Washington State Patrol.
I know also this session in the legislature, there are some bills that are trying to address the shortcomings of I-940. But I don't know how much of what's in a bill actually ends up a law at the end of the session. But I know that folks in police oversight, interest groups are paying attention to the bills, and that's one of the things that are included. Maybe we can ask Council President Beggs if he knows anything more when he comes to speak with us.
And when he did come to the OPOC meeting last time, we did mention that the shortcoming in regards to officer-involved shootings. So he's at least heard it. I don't know if he's had the opportunity to drill down into that or not.
Okay, any further questions or clarifications from commissioners? Okay, that takes us to our OPOC business, item number 1. And before I even read the entry here for number 1, I want to make sure I've got this correct. I've always wondered, female ombuds person. I'm seeing here it's ombuds ma'am. Is that correct? Or was that a typo? Or I want to make sure I'm maybe Ms. O'Monic can fill me in on that.
Yeah, so this is probably a direct quote from Bart, but it's a Swedish word that is a gender neutral term. So as it stands, that's correct. I know there's been a movement statewide, at least the laws say person, but as far as gender, it's gender neutral.
Ombuds ma'am is?
No, that's a typo.
Okay.
It's definitely a typo.
Okay.
So ombudsman is a Swedish term that is gender neutral. And I think at the state level throughout, they're using the term ombuds throughout the state. And
as soon as you Bart, as soon as you said it, you went silent on my end. So
I apologize.
So the state did what now?
The state is using ombuds as there's more sensitivity towards any kind of seemingly gender specific terms. I have an email from USOA, which is the United States Ombudsman Association, where there's this great debate going back and forth from ombuds people from around the country. I'll forward it to you. It's an interesting read. As far as I'm concerned, we can call us whatever we want.
Okay, so for some reason this is a problematic for me, and so I want to make sure that I'm saying it correct. Ms. Omana, how do you want to be referred to ombuds? And for the problem I'm having too is a lot of you are chopping out. I can't get full sentences for the last couple of minutes here because there's some choppiness in the sound. So I don't mean to make a deal. Just want to make sure that I'm referring to you in the correct way.
Yeah, I have no issue with ombudsman.
But okay, sorry, I didn't mean to make a big deal, but I saw the ombudsman and I thought, what? Okay, so speaking of deputy police ombudsman, Louis May's title changed. I would say probably a couple years ago. Is that right, Ms. Omana?
October of 2019.
Okay. And since that title change, the city is having some issues or struggles with, I wouldn't say not honoring it, but they don't seem to be able to make appropriate adjustments to what that title should bring. So rather than me try to stumble through this explaining what the issue is, Ms. Omana or Mr. Lowe, do one of you want to make a more thorough explanation as to what is that issue here?
Sure. And perhaps Commissioner Rose can fill in a couple of the blanks. So once the commission voted to elevate Louis May to the position of deputy, we immediately put in a letter to HR requesting that they start the process. We had done this once before with Louis May when she used her original term. Title was assistant to the ombudsman, and we wanted to, because she does a lot more than that, we elevated her to the administrative analyst position. And in order to do that, we had to go through a couple of different steps. And one was create a position description, have it evaluated by HR. Then they had to establish a salary that everybody agreed to. So it was a very heavy HR process. So when we sent the email or letter, I don't remember what it was, to HR, I recall getting an email from Chris Kavanaugh at the time, who said that she wasn't sure she had the authority to do that, and forwarded it to Mike Ormsby in City Legal. I recall an email coming back later on from Mike Ormsby to the commission that did we understand what making her a deputy entailed? And I saw a response from Commissioner Rose back to him. Of course we do. We understand what making a number 2 entails. And we went from there. Later on, I don't remember how I came about this information, but there was something where Megan Steinolfson had said that the guild had to be part of creating the position of deputy ombudsman, which is not in our ordinance. And so it kind of paused there. And what I remember how I did, I was having a conversation with the new director of human resources, Amber Richards. And what I told her was that when we elevated Louis May to that position, we did it with the full knowledge that some of her function would need to be negotiated with the guild. So if she was to be taking over everything when I'm out of the office, like attending interviews or certifying cases, of course, that portion of it would need to be negotiated with the guild. We understand that. So that's that interaction with Louis May and the police department. So that function of her duties would have to be negotiated, but there are so many other aspects that can be delegated to Louis May that has nothing to do with contact with the police department in order to keep her full-time as a deputy. And that's what I described to Amber. So the commission did this with full knowledge that some aspects would still need to be negotiated, but we still wanted to elevate her to that level. So Amber Richards is the new director. She's taken over, I want to say just in the last 3 or 4 months. And maybe it's been 6 months, who knows, with this last year. But she used to be head of civil service, and she reported to the Civil Service Commission. So she's the only other employee in the city that actually had a working relationship similar to ours. She does understand it, and she's willing to work on that. And I just thought that we should, as a commission, probably reinvigorate that process, because as far as I'm concerned, Luby May's owed a salary increase from the moment you elevated her to deputy. And that's over a year ago. So I'd like to at least put some effort into that in order to see if we can't bring that to fruition.
Okay, commissioners, discussion, any clarifying questions that you might have? Commissioner Rose?
So that was going to be my question, if the money followed the position, but obviously Luby May has not been given what that position entails as far as monetary value. So just throwing this out here, maybe Commissioner Smith, it might be a good idea maybe to meet with Amber Richards and kind of lay out the story and what has been going on, and kind of get our thoughts on how we can get this taken care of, because this is ridiculous, really.
Yeah.
To go this long. Here's in my head, and I should have asked. Silly me. I thought Luby May was getting the money, just not the name. But that's just not appropriate. So just an idea.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to make an appointment with Heather Richards. Is that the name? And Amber, excuse me, Amber Richards. And had that discussion with her, and
I'd be happy to be part of that also.
You bet.
We did like a Zoom meeting or a
Sure.
teleconference call. That would be.
I'd
be happy to be there with you if you want me.
Oh, absolutely. You bet. Especially with your background with this particular situation. And Ms. Cody, is that possible for you to arrange a Zoom meeting or whichever one the WebEx meeting?
Yes, sir.
And we'll coordinate that and get that going. Okay. Any other questions concerning that situation? And then we should be able to report back, hopefully, at our next commission meeting as to what went on with that meeting with Amber. Okay, moving to item number 2, the OPO and the OPOC annual report. I know that it's a goal of the OPO and the OPOC to have it completed and out, published and distributed earlier than later. Let me ask the OPO, Mr. Loeb or Ms. Omana, how is the OPO aspect going for you?
So I just heard back today from polls on some questions that I had. So I am still going through their responses, and then there is a section that the police that I usually get from the police department. I think we call it statistics of interest, that include accidents, uses of force, critical incidents, those types of numbers. And Kathy Armstrong usually provides that to me, and she said that won't be ready until March. So I'm thinking that we can publish and then just attach an amendment when that becomes available. But I'm in the data checking phase right now. So hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have a draft to Bart. If not, the very first week of February. But
Okay.
we're doing much better than previous years.
Okay. Yeah. Good to hear. And then for our OPOC annual report, Chris, let's see, I'm trying to remember how we worked this in the past. Do I, or go ahead, Ms. Commissioner Rose?
So here was my idea. Usually, Ms. Cody does a lot of the work,
Mm-hmm.
I think with Miss Omana, but we have pretty much the template from last year. So I wouldn't mind going through it and kind of doing a really, really, really rough draft. If Miss Cody or Miss Omana could put in the statistics, if that makes sense for last year. So kind of just use last year's report as the template, but just kind of change things around. Of course, the statistics would change. And then I think we could do it a lot faster. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah.
So,
And then, is there still the component of the letter from the chair that starts the report? Okay.
mhm. I can do that.
Okay.
You know, it's an optional thing. There are
Is it?
many reports out there that don't have personal letters, and it's entirely up to you if you want to keep doing that. I think it adds a little bit of personality to the report, where the rest kind of gets pretty boring pretty fast with just charts and figures, unless you're a charts and figures person.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of encapsulates the year, you know, so if
Yeah.
they're not going to read the whole report, at least they're going to get the gist in the letter of what the year was like. And basically 2020, we all know what that was like,
Yeah.
you know. So anyway,
So Commissioner
This-
Rose, it sounds like you're interested in continuing the letter at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, because I agree, Mr. Logue.
I would be, oh, go
it-
ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It does add a little personality to it, and like you said, Jenny, that somebody who may not read the entire document may definitely focus on the initial letter. So yeah, okay, sounds good. Okay.
One aspect of the reports that I just wanted to quickly
Uh-huh.
brief you is that we have received a draft response from the police department in regards to the recommendations we made from C19040. We are going to be meeting, Louis May and I, with Chief Meidel and company, whoever he brings in to that meeting on Monday, as we have some questions in regards to some of their responses. And once the chief slaps the table, then we'll have the police response to those recommendations, and we'll be able to move forward with that part, because that's a pretty big part of the OPOC's report as well.
Okay. And heading back to the agenda, we have commissioner vacancy. Christina, are you still with us? That vacancy is for position number 2, is that right?
Correct. District 2, it's City Councilwoman Wilkerson and Kinnear.
You're right. So I know, Ms. Cody, that you corresponded with the two of them, and then I followed up with my own letter to them. I've not heard back from that letter I sent last week, but it just clarified what Ms. Cody had originally said, that it's totally up to those two council persons to select the candidate, interview the candidate, and then forward a name to us. And so that's what I basically reiterated. And so we're hoping to hear back from them, and hopefully a name very, very soon. Because I did indicate that a successful commission is a full commission with every seat filled. So I'll keep you posted on that.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Commissioner Jasmine might have some things to add.
Okay.
He was muted because he's an outside caller. So Commissioner Jasmine, I have unmuted you. Sorry.
No, well, it's a little outdated now, but I think it's around the report. I guess my question, remember, I'm new here, I'm a newbie, but is there some sort of like cover letter before heading into the nuts and bolts, I'm assuming, or is it pretty much just kind of a data sheet?
Well, there is an introductory letter typically from the chair of that calendar year. Will write a letter that basically just summarizes or kind of synthesizes all that occurred during that year, and then the report goes into a lot of detailed information with numbers and recommendations and those kinds of things. Anyone want to add to that question that was just asked? Commissioner Jasmine, does that help a little bit?
Yeah, that was helpful.
Okay. If you I realize being new, it's just a lot of this is sounding really kind of Greek, and I know that's how it was for me. But once you see the report when it comes out later in early spring, you'll see kind of how it flows. It's a pretty sharp document. They both are, and I think it really helps communicate to others what we're doing and what the OPO is doing, and so anyway.
Right. Well, if it's I will say I think I feel pretty good. I think all of you are explaining things very well. So I will note that. I don't feel totally lost. I guess the reason why I asked the question was, I don't know, just to see if there's any aspirational language that could be infused when we talk about kind of the recommendations and outlook of 2021. That'd be my, I guess, recommendation, if possible.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I can send you the 2019 annual report if you are interested. It's also on the webpage, but I'll send it directly to you.
Yeah, that's the extremely long. I think I read that. Okay, I think I thank you all. I think I did read that. I think Bart was referring to it. It's but go ahead. I do have access to it, is what I'm saying. So,
okay. But no,
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Commissioner Jasmine, your point's well taken about the aspirational aspect. How we could possibly fuse in what we would hope would be, reporting what happened, but somehow also adding language that be nice to see how it could be different. And I think that's what the OPO does a great job at, is here's what it is, here's what we hope we'd see next time, or here's how it could be a little different. So I appreciate the idea of the aspirational language for sure. Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Back to the agenda. Let me do some scrolling here. Okay, hard to believe we are cruising through this agenda. And we're at number 4 with Commissioner Speak Out. Commissioners, as you know, this is a time where you may add some thoughts or anything that you want to share for the good of the order. Any commissioners interested in doing that? Yes, Commissioner Wilburn. Commissioner Wilburn, I think you're,
Yeah, Christine,
there you go. You're good.
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay, my question is, what role does the Guild have to play with what we're with the Office of Police Ombudsman Commissioners? I noticed earlier that I think it was Bart that said that the Guild had concerns about Louie's position, and I want to know what role they play in this. You know.
Personally, sir, I don't think they have a role.
Okay.
But if you think back over the last couple of years, they have blocked Christina from having access to programs. They do everything they can to minimize our impact, from my perspective. So in this case, they think that if they have the authority to be part of my selection committee, they should have the authority to be part of Louie May's selection committee. But where they miss the point is, I'm responsible for what happens in the office of the police ombudsman.
Yes.
And what my deputy would do, and for what anybody else in our office would do. I'm responsible for that. So their authority, which they have right now to be part of the selection process for the ombudsman, covers all of that. They don't get to pick who my number 2 would be, or who else gets to work in our office, because all of that authority is vested in me as the ombudsman. And when the commission elevated Louie May, this is just part of what's been going on for the last several years. If it's something about moving forward, we're going to get a roadblock from the Guild. In this case, I had asked our HR rep for a meeting in regards to Louie May's position. And she wanted to bring Megan Steinolfson down to be part of that meeting. And when I said that it would be inappropriate for Megan to be part of that meeting because she represents the Guild and the contracts, HR refused to have the meeting with me. So that's when I elevated up to Amber Richards to start that discussion, and why I think the commission needs to be back involved with that.
I agree. The Guild, we need to know, is the Guild's role defined where we can address it? I mean, how do we know when they're stepping out of bounds here? You know, I think the Guild, my interpretation, it deals with the police department. This is not the police department. So that's why I I'm just wanting to know what the Guild's role, if we can define what the Guild's role is with the police department, because my understanding is they have no role here with the commission. This is a separate entity as far as I'm concerned. Because if they can determine, if they can overrule what the commissioners decide, then look like we're under their auspices, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, if I could, I absolutely agree with Commissioner Wilburn. If we could, I don't know who that would be, but getting some specific language on what their role is would be great, because I don't know if it was Bart. I apologize, I'm on the phone. If it was you, Bart, that was speaking, but nobody should be making those determinations as far as what you're doing in your office, and like Commissioner Wilburn said, I didn't think that's what I was signing up for, to be under Guild as well. So it would be great to get some clarification on their role.
Well, Commissioners Wilburn and Jasmine, this is, as we all know, has been the rub for a long, long time. Obstruct, put walls up, delay, make sure that however we want to do the job that the citizens of Spokane voted for us to do. The Guild is an organization that gets in the way every time because they don't want to see their power diminished. And then we get into this fuzzy language in the charter. And there we go, back and forth, back and forth. We had some momentum in the summer, through protests. I think the Guild was getting a message that people are sick and tired of it. And I just, I'm a union person too, and I have been in an education union for decades. It's like my union coming into my school and becoming involved in something they have no business being involved in. It's like asking my union to come in and hire my principal, the teachers, the custodians, and they don't think, the union would think that we are not capable of doing it. And I just find that detestable. And I realize that there is, every meeting we have a representative from the Guild here at the meeting. That's fine. I get it. But it just really rubs me the wrong way. And I know it does a lot of other people. So I'll be quiet at this point. Commissioner Rose, I'm sorry, you had your hand raised a moment ago.
Well, I was just going to kind of say what you just said, Commissioner Smith, is that when something goes wrong, then the Guild likes to file a grievance. Well, they can't file a grievance against us, so they'll file it against the city. So then the city kind of gives us the direction in so many words that we can't continue whatever it is. So, and then it gets blocked, and then nothing gets done, and it just lasts into the years, literally into the years, and we can't seem to move forward. So, and then we've asked city council several times, we need some sort of language, and then that goes back to the ordinance, and then that goes back to, if you have to write a new section or whatever. I mean, it's just so convoluted. So I just saw that message pop up. That was good. It's interesting to say the least. And I've tried to meet with the Police Guild president. I was a union president. No, nothing to do. So it's really kind of sad that people don't want to work together. Right. Try to figure this out together. So. Right.
And I know that Council President Beggs briefed us in the summer with some potential ideas and maybe some movement that could be had. I've had Ms. Cody reach out to Councilman or Council President Beggs to see if he would come to one of our meetings. It looks like he'll maybe be able to come in February, and hopefully he will be able to share something that has transpired since he last briefed us. Okay, we're on Commissioner Speak Out. I've spoken. I think we've all spoken. Any further things that want to be said before we move to executive session? Okay. It's been a while since I've dealt with the executive session. I know that we, at this point, I need to announce we are going into executive session. I believe that the time will take about 20 minutes, so I'd like to make it a 20-minute executive session having to do with one of the OPO members of the staff. And in 20 minutes, I will come back either having concluded the executive session and or report to you what occurred without revealing too much information. Mr. Bigeman, Did I do that okay, or do I need to add or delete something?
So what I would do is give the specific time of when we're going to go into executive session and the specific time that the executive session will end, and we'll come back into our regular meeting. And then the exception to the Open Public Meetings Act, I believe on this one, is to review the performance of an employee.
Yes, that is correct. Okay, thank you for that. So we will have to leave this meeting and join the executive session meeting that should be in your email listings. And let's plan on beginning that executive session at 6:40 in 5 minutes. I might give you a chance to use the restroom if you need to, or just stretch. We'll start at 6:40 and we will end the executive session at 7 p.m. And so I will see you in the executive session.
Hey, Commissioner Wilburn,
Yes.
you will have to leave this meeting in order to go into the other one.
Okay. I'm trying to find it.
Oh, let me see. I will go into email and make sure I forward you that one right now.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to be on another line?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't look like I have the link. I will text Christina.
I think. Uh, am I here?
You're still on the original one, sir.
I am okay.
Was there a link sent out?
There was. I've texted Christina that you're looking for it. Do you have access to your email on that phone?
Yes.
So you should have received an email from Christina regarding the executive session. So then you would leave this meeting to that meeting, and then at the end of the session, come back to this meeting.
Okay, I see it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
See what this is?
I got an alert that an Amazon package had arrived, and I was like, do I need to complain that it didn't get here? And then I was like, oh yeah, I sent that one to Commissioner Jasmine.
What was that? What was that you were holding up, Luke? What was that? I missed it.
Police accountability.
Oh.
Yeah,
Is
so
that a
it's
textbook?
It's a book. It's the newer version of the one Bart has, and that's the OPOC copy. They've updated it, so we can send it your way.
Nothing but the best for the OPOC.
Does Christina have a voice now? Oh, that is so strange.
She caught laryngitis over the executive session.
Okay,
She had it before.
it's 7 p.m. Our executive session, which began at 6:40, is officially has ended at 7 p.m. So we will move on to, I think we are ready for adjournment. I think so. Our next meeting, Christina, I don't have my calendar in front of me. Do you know offhand what that would be? Oh, that's right. You can't talk. Sorry.
Looks like February 16th.
February 16th. Okay. Commissioners, I presume that still works for all of you and for us. And okay, well, that means that we are adjourned. Thank you for being here this evening, and hopefully next month we'll have better sound quality. Right? Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Have a great night, and meeting is adjourned.
All right.